Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Lots to do. A lot of me in hour number one. We'll talk a little bit about the Saints rookies as they move forward in their first season in the NFL. It's What If Wednesday in 30 minutes. Tony Vitello headed out west. We'll talk about that at the end of the hour. What's LSU going to do at offensive tackle in this game against a really good Texas A&M defensive front? We'll do that at the top of hour number two. J.D. Piquel with us at 2:15. Our SEC football power rankings coming your way at 2:30. So lots and lots to do. Let's crank it up the way we do every day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Got a little bit of news earlier today that LSU is going to move forward this season without a former starter on the roster. Ashton Stamps is no longer with the LSU football program. Brian Kelly confirmed that on the SEC coaches teleconference just a few minutes after 10 o'clock this morning. Not earth-shattering news here. When you heard last week that Brian Kelly mentioned Ashton Stamps and Caleb Jackson as guys that they were going to try to keep capped at 4 games to protect their eligibility, that's the writing on the wall that conversation's been had, that those two players wish likely to move elsewhere. They don't want to lose an eligibility that they could perhaps use as a starter somewhere else, and that process starts. Now, some folks decide to stick it around. If we need you, I'll play. If not, I'm moving on. Some folks say, I'm out. And Ashton Stamps has obviously said, I'm out. Ashton Stamps had an interesting path at LSU. He was late into his class as a 3-star addition from Rummel, and he came in and really turned some heads early on in his time on campus. And he ended up becoming a starter as a freshman. He started 4 games for the 2023 team at corner. And last year, he started all 13 games for LSU at corner and was 3rd in the Southeastern Conference in pass breakups. He had 14 of them last year. Never got his hands on an interception, but had 14 pass breakups. But as I mentioned a lot, this is not a shot at Ashton Stamps at all. Ashton Stamps played admirably for LSU in early circumstances for a 3-star recruit. But LSU did not cover well enough really the last 4 years. I've done segments on this. I talked about this after Jordan Travis went nuts against LSU in Orlando. I talked about it. Then when LSU couldn't cover late in the game against USC last year, I talked about it. And I had been adamant, like, this is not the standard that LSU has played to. And Corey Raymond went about changing that. He went and got Mansour Delane, who is well on his way to an All-American season that is going to end in a first-round draft choice. He has been sensational. He went and got DJ Pickett, who was the number 1 cornerback in the country coming out of high school. And he's worked his way into the lineup. And P.J. Woodland is kind of taking the route that it looked like Stamps was going to take as the 3-star, maybe a little bit undersized corner who's a pretty good athlete that gets his way to the field. And Stamps didn't play in the opener on defense and played 18 snaps against Louisiana Tech on defense and didn't play on defense after that. So Stamps got beaten out. I don't have another way to say it. And LSU, despite its faults, they are struggling on the offensive line. They do not run the ball well. They don't pass protect all that well. Wide receivers aren't making explosive plays. The quarterback's been a little bumpy here and there. Run game's gotten after them a little bit against Ole Miss and against Vanderbilt. They've covered pretty well, especially on the corners. And Stamps has not been a part of that. So, yeah, like Ashton Stamps could play 3 more games on this team, and he would still have a red shirt. And there aren't that many more games left. You got to play Texas A&M. You got to play Bama. You got to play Arkansas. You got to play Western Kentucky. You got to play Oklahoma. So there's not a lot left. He could theoretically play 3 more games, but obviously Ashton Stamps has made the decision, I've been beaten out here. I don't want to be on this team anymore. I'm going to move on. I don't know that for a fact. It appears to me to be the situation based on what Brian Kelly has said the last 2 weeks. I think Ashton Stamps is a functional SEC player at corner. And he's a third-year player. Is he ever going to be a star at LSU? I think the odds are probably against that. And, you very, very likely have P.J. Woodland and DJ Pickett back next year, although that's always up for debate and up to chance when you get into a transfer portal season. But as long as Corey Raymond is there, and I've said this, as long as Corey Raymond is in Baton Rouge, LSU at defensive back is going to bring in and develop talent. He's just very, very good at that. He identifies it well. He recruits it well. He develops it well. He did it for a better part of a decade in his first run at LSU, and it took him a year to get his feet on the ground and to kind of overhaul things. But you're looking at it right now. And right now, I would suggest that LSU, in terms of the way that they cover on defense, is probably the thing that LSU does the best on the entire roster right now. That's kind of where I am. And Ashton Stamps obviously is going to look elsewhere. I should say I'm incorrect. I just realized this on the stat sheet, so let me correct myself. He could not play in 3 more games. He's only played on defense 1 game. He has played 2 games worth of special teams. So he's played 3 games. He could only play 1 more to preserve his red shirt. So I misspoke in the beginning of that segment, caught myself there. Stamps would only be eligible to play 1 more game to keep his red shirt. Obviously not interested in that, so he's going to move on and likely look elsewhere moving forward. Shea Dixon from 1-3 had that earlier today. Brian Kelly confirmed it. So Ashton Stamps moving on from LSU's program. But if you look at LSU as far as at defensive back, Delane will be gone after this year. Pickett be a sophomore next year. Woodland be a sophomore next year. DeMarcus Cooley, who's played safety and can play a little bit nickelback as well. He is a redshirt sophomore on this team, so that's a guy who's got more eligibility to play with. And you just count on Corey to continue to bring guys in and to give a look at guys and to develop guys. And you look at behind those guys at this point, there's nothing that's proven, but again, that's just a trust thing that I have in Corey Raymond to go ahead and make sure that those guys continue to develop. So you look at Aiden Anding, who was the number 1 cornerback in the country in the state of Louisiana entering this season. That's a guy you would look to. Jakeem Jackson still has a couple years of eligibility. He hasn't gotten to the field on this team. And then Michael Turner is a redshirt freshman who has not made an impact in his short time on campus. So you're going to need to continue to recruit high-level corners. You're doing that in this current class right now. They have gone out, obviously, to California. I mean, Corey Raymond has a national recruiting brand. That's just very evident. And he's going to be able to go and get national cornerbacks. And so in this class, you've got Haven Finney, who comes from Sierra Canyon out in Southern California. That's a guy that they're very high on, who is right out of the Corey Raymond playbook at 6'2". That's a guy that you feel very, very good about with your evaluation of him. Aiden Hall, probably a safety in this class, but that's another defensive back that they like in this class, and you're going to have to go out and add another corner, and then you're going to have to go into the portal and add more corners. But as I sit here, it's just not one of those deals. Like, that is so far down the list of things that I'm concerned with this LSU program. It's like towards the top of the list in things that I'm confident in this program, that LSU is going to be just fine at cornerback. And if you return next year with P.J. Woodland and DJ Pickett as your 2 outside corners, I think that's a really good foundation to start from, because those 2 guys have played really well, and this is their first year as starters, or guys that play a consistent amount, and they've played very well. So Ashton Stamps will move on. You get the sense that Caleb Jackson's time carrying the football at LSU is probably done, though that wasn't addressed today. You just put him in that bucket with Ashton Stamps. We'll see. Things happen, and you never know what goes on between now and when the portal opens in December, between now and when the spring portal opens after spring football, and then, of course, by the time we get to Labor Day next year, all bets are off. But you just work with what you know, and that's kind of what we feel like at this point. The only other noteworthy happenings from LSU today on the conference call was the update on Bernard Gooden and Whit Weeks. Bernard Gooden did do a little bit on the practice field yesterday. Brian Kelly said he did some individual, did some team stuff as well. They're easing him back in. He didn't give a designation. We'll get that tonight on the Wednesday injury report. Bernard Gooden was eased back in. Whit Weeks right now is in a boot, and he's not able to put weight on his foot ankle area. It's got that bone bruise. I can't imagine if you're in a boot on Wednesday afternoon that you're going to take that thing off and be full speed and ready to go on Saturday. I don't know that. We'll get the injury report tonight, but I don't feel good about Whit Weeks' availability for this week against Texas A&M at all. And that's a very difficult pill to swallow when you look at how well A&M runs the ball between a very veteran offensive line and then Reuben Owens in the backfield. They don't have Le'Veon Moss, but they've got Reuben Owens, and we saw what Marcel Reed can do with his feet as well. So it's not great to not have your All-American linebacker in the middle of your defense, and I'm not confirming that he's not playing, but it's my strong suggestion that Whit Weeks will not be on the field on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, Saturday night for LSU. That's just a sense you get from the fact that he's still in a walking boot 3 days to game time. So not a great update as far as the injuries go, but we'll continue to monitor things as the updates come out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, moving into the Texas A&M game. Renaissance Homes and Pools, they bring you our Wednesday shows each and every week. Talked to my guy Joey Blanchard earlier today, and things can get a little bit crazy with them in the spring and summer. It's busy, it's good. People want to get into those pools. This is not the time people were thinking about pools, but it is a good time to think about pools, because if you want to get into that pool for the spring of 2026, this is a slower time for Renaissance Homes and Pools. They can get in front of you, and you can start that process. Make sure your finances are in order. Get that customization done exactly the way you want it. So when it's time to put that shovel in the ground, you know exactly what your plan is. So contact Joey, 225-252-7745. Again, that's 225-252-7745. You can find all their great work at builtbyrenaissance.com, builtbyrenaissance.com, and you'll work with Joey directly from start to finish. He is the owner of that company. They bring you our Wednesday shows. All right, got a lot to do over the next hour and 15 minutes. Let's shift gears over to the Saints and look at some of their rookies and how they're playing. Some good, some not as good. We'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com is the website. Jonathan Carver and his team, phenomenal folks to work with on the insurance side of things. Looks like we are finding our way to the end of hurricane season there. I saw another update, but it didn't look to be a big threat to the Gulf Coast. So you never know until you know. But it feels like we've gotten through another quiet hurricane season. But that doesn't mean that there's not another one around the corner. And at that point, you're going to want your insurance program to respond properly. So if you've got a January, February renewal of your insurance program, you're a business owner, and you want to make sure that everything is in line as you renew, be proactive. Contact the Highland Insurance Group. Let them audit your current policy. Make sure everything is in place. If it's not, they'll help you fix it. If it is, they'll give you the thumbs up. But more often than not, there are some issues. Those insurance programs can get pretty complicated, and that's where the Highland Insurance Group comes in with their expertise. Check them out here in Baton Rouge online at highlandig.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Do What If Wednesday coming up in 15 minutes. If you've got a what if in the Bayou Ford chat, throw it our way. We'll get to a couple of those. I was a little afraid to throw the what if bait in the water on Twitter earlier. We got some of the expected stuff, and we'll see how much we do that and how much we kind of skirt around. But we're looking at them all. So if you've got something you'd like us to talk about, hit us up in the Bayou Ford chat for What If Wednesday. Let's talk some Saints. The Saints have to build through the draft, right? That's the only way to get out of this complete mess. And if you have no confidence in the Saints front office to draft, I understand that. Like I don't have a rebuttal to that. But if you feel like they have no chance in the draft, then what you're suggesting is that they have no chance, period. And then we're just wasting our time and energy talking about them and watching them. I have to cling to some hope. I have to cling to something positive until it's proven otherwise. And you've got to build through the draft. And the Saints did a good job in this draft of essentially standing pat and making their selections. They took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players in this draft. You're never going to take 9 players and get 9 starters out of the NFL draft. But my contention entering the draft, like if you can get 4 guys in this draft that can start, and 1 or 2 of them is a really, really key piece to what you're doing, that's a good foundation. That's kind of what you're looking for. I'd take 6. I'd love 5. 4 is kind of the baseline. Like, you need to make sure you get 4 dudes in this draft that can help you. And so I wanted to start looking at that, being that we're inching towards the halfway point of the season. These stories are not even close to being finally written, but we have some data. So let's get into what these guys have been. And I'm going to use Pro Football Focus as a bit of a tool here to suggest what they're seeing and what I'm seeing. He took Kelvin Banks 9th overall. I would suggest that looks good right now. I would suggest that looks like a good pick. His PFF grade overall is a 66, which is not great, but certainly not a disaster. It's a 65.4 in the passing game, a 64.3 in the running game. I like the fact that there's balance there. You're not woefully deficient somewhere. That's not the case. I don't like the fact that he's got 4 penalties, but I do like the fact that 3 of those were week 2 in Seattle, and he hasn't been flagged since the Seattle game. And his best grades per PFF have been the last 2 weeks. 76.2 against Chicago, and then the week previous, 69.8 against New England. So what I'm looking at here is objectively the penalties have come down, and subjectively the grade from Pro Football Focus has gone up. And you can look at the fronts that they're playing, and, you know, there may have been a couple early that were a little bit better. The Giants are a tough matchup for young offensive linemen. I gotcha. But this is a pick that looks the part and is improving. I like that early on. I'm not here to bang the gavel on any of these guys and declare bust or absolute hit, Pro Bowl or All Pro or cut. Like, I'm just saying I like where Kelvin Banks is headed at left tackle. Your second pick was Tyler Shuck. You have no information there. None that we can glean. Then you took Vernon Broughton in the 3rd round. Then he got out there for a game, and now he's out, and that's not great. But then you get into these middle round picks. Jonas Sanker, late 3rd round. He's graded 69.6 overall, 64.2 against the run, 68.4 against the pass in his coverage. He's been pretty solid. He's had his moments that haven't been great. Like, he's tied with Demario Davis for the most missed tackles on the team, and Demario has a lot more opportunities than him. But he's also been Johnny on the spot. He's been involved in a couple of turnovers. The thing that's bringing that grade down is a 27.8 in tackling. He's got to be better at that. But I like that he's in the right place. I like that he's been involved in some turnovers. I like that he's not afraid to get in there and tackle. Is he a great cover guy at this point? I don't know about that. But he's making some plays. He looks like he's got the instincts to be a quality safety halfway through his rookie season. You don't see a lot of late 3rd round picks show up and ball out in their first 7 games in the NFL. It happens, but it doesn't happen a lot. I think Sanker is a positive here. And we've seen those 2 guys early and often. Banks, starter from day 1. Sanker been thrust into the lineup with injury and retirement. Danny Stutzman was a 4th round pick out of Oklahoma. And he didn't play early in the season. He's only played in 3 games. And he's only played in 26 snaps. So the sample size is tiny for Stutzman. But they're easing him in, which I like. And he had 16 snaps against the Bears. That was a season high. And he graded 78.5 against the run and an 80.4 in tackling. This is another guy. This is a tiny sample size, and I am not here to overreact with Danny Stutzman on a tiny sample size. But we saw really good things in the preseason, and Pro Football Focus liked what they saw in the season high in snaps against Chicago. They're getting him out on the field. Danny Stutzman, to me, feels like a guy, if I had to guess right now, that he's going to be playing a lot in December. That's what I think. I think Danny Stutzman gets his way to the field in December. And I like what I'm seeing from him early on. It's hard to hit on middle round picks, but Sanker in the 3rd, Stutzman in the 4th feels pretty good right now. Again, not slam dunk starters. Feels pretty good right now the way that they're trending. You also, in the 4th round, took Quincy Riley out of Louisville. Now, his overall grade is not great, 53.9. But his run defense, pretty good in 74.6. Coverage, 49.1, hit or miss. Here are the numbers against Riley according to PFF. They've thrown at him 15 times, 7 completions, 8 incompletions, 1 touchdown there, 1 pass breakup, had the interception, and then had 1 penalty that he was flagged for. Love the interception. Love the play he made on the interception. And I love his tape, and I love the the production at Louisville. As I've seen some struggles from Kool-Aid, you kind of know what Alontae Taylor is. I do think and I do hope that Quincy Riley gets more run here in November and December than he has early on. This is a guy that it's a small sample size and there have been some hiccups, but there's reason to believe here. And let's be candid. I'll do it after this. That's 3 guys in the middle round. Sanker in the 3rd, Stutzman in the 4th, Riley in the 4th. Then you go back to the 6th and you get Devin Neal. Well, we have almost nothing to go off on Devin Neal, but we know that you've lost Kendre Miller for the year, and now Devin Neal is going to get to play. So not all 6-rounders get a chance for a rookie year evaluation. Plenty of 6-rounders get cut or end up on the practice squad or don't contribute, maybe play some special teams in coverage. And right now it looks like you're going to get to see Devin Neal play. So now all of a sudden, I'm looking at this draft class, and I get to Molokai, Mataval, the tight end out of UCLA, nothing, Fadil Diggs, tiny little sample size, not worth talking about right now. But I look at Banks, Sanker, Stutzman, Riley, and Neal. That's 5 guys you drafted this year. And I think in November and December, you're going to get a good look at all of them. Banks for sure. Sanker for sure, barring injury. Stutzman, easy to conceive and believe. Riley and Neal, same thing. They're right there on the depth chart, going to play. Not every snap, but will play. So that's a great evaluation period for these Saints rookies. And I didn't even mention Shuck, who, if you made me guess right now, I would suggest is going to get some playing time later in the season. We talked about it yesterday. That's what I think is coming. So there's a really good chance you will get to evaluate multiple games, big sample size. Kelvin Banks, Tyler Shuck, Jonas Sanker, Danny Stutzman, Quincy Riley, Devin Neal. 6 guys. Now, it may not mean a bunch of victories this year. In fact, I'm confident it won't. And it's not to suggest that it's all going to be positive when they're out there. It won't be. But if you got 6 guys out there and 4 of them prove they can do it, you're hitting my baseline. You're hitting my benchmark that I was looking for before the commissioner ever called out a name in April. So that's a positive. There are plenty of times. Isaiah Foskey, he's an example of this. Stanley Jean-Baptiste, he's an example of this. Of guys that got drafted, went to training camp, played in the preseason, and then never helped their first year because the coaching staff knew quickly this guy can't help. Clearly, that hasn't happened with any of these guys I'm mentioning. Shuck is the only one you could perhaps suggest that for, but I think we all realize that they just haven't gotten their best look at him yet, and that's going to come later in the season. But there are busts bad enough that you know in that first training camp and that first season, yep, that's a miss. And sometimes if they're really early picks, they get kept around longer than they should because they're early round picks. But these guys are all getting time. And nobody's knocking on the door of the Pro Bowl right now, but I need development and I need the youth movement to start taking over. And I'm not asking for everybody to hit. Of course, if I could rank them, I'd put Shuck first. Hadn't seen him. You put Banks second. Seeing pretty good things. And you might put Vernon Broughton third, and you're not going to see him. But the next 4 guys, Sanker, Stutzman, Riley, and Neal, this is a huge 10 weeks for them. Huge 10 weeks for them. And we'll continue to monitor them as they move forward. But the good news is you are going to get an evaluation. And that doesn't always happen with middle round rookies, especially on a roster that's very good. The Saints roster is not good. It's bad. And once again, it's the beauty of this thing. You've got time. So if you need to pull a linebacker off the field and get Pete Werner down so Stutzman gets some time, fine. You got no space that you feel like Quincy Riley needs to occupy, make some. If Spencer Rattler continues to plateau or falters, give Shuck a look. And I think by the time, first of the year rolls around, we will have a good feeling about all 6 of these guys in terms of what they could or couldn't be. And that's part of the exciting part. You got to cling to hope somewhere. 1 and 6 is not where you're going to be clinging for hope. But these draft picks, maybe, just maybe, are next up. And we're going to get a good look at them throughout the course of the next 2 months. So my thoughts on the Saints there. You can read Ross Jackson stuff at LouisianaSports.net. Of course, you can check out our stuff at Hunt on Saints wherever you find your podcast. Jordan, is there a rookie or two that you want a closer look at, maybe outside of Shuck?
Other than Devin Neal, honestly, because at this point you have no more Kendre, so it's like Devin Neal, and I think his time's going to come. You know, you would like to see Stutzman. The tape I've seen on DeMario, I'm a Twitter warrior, so I'm not really seeing like actual, Jacob Hester tape. But,
look,
from what I seen from DeMario, it was...
Father Time's undefeated.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
It didn't look good, and we already know what we get out of Pete Warner. So yeah, let's ramp Stutzman up a little bit more. But other than Stutzman and, like I said, Devin Neal, I think Jonas Sigurd can play. Quincy Riley, he had his moments against the Patriots, but he shook back against the Bears. So yes. I think they are on the right track, right trajectory compared to the last couple of draft classes. Like, we don't even talk about the 23 draft class with Kendre and
some bad stuff.
Yeah, Nick Saldivari, all these guys, Jake Hayner, A.T. Perry. So it's good that these guys are actually contributing. We're not winning, we're not contributing to W's, but it's the building blocks of the foundation. You can't be in a rebuild and don't expect this part of the rebuild. So
that's exactly right. So we'll see. That's a look at your Saints rookie. Step aside. It's What If Wednesday next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Vaughn and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I sat down to breakfast with David a couple weeks ago and said, hey, what are y'all seeing a lot of? He said, well, there's one thing that we're seeing a ton of. It's houses that were built 90s, early 2000s. They're 25, 30 years old, and they were built with those big jacuzzis with the standing shower next to it. And if that's the case and you feel like things are a little bit old and dingy, or you maybe don't use that jacuzzi tub and it's a waste of space, well, they can take that shower out, put a linen closet right there, open, closed, door, whatever. And then you take that big jacuzzi shower, which takes up a lot of space, put a walk-in shower there. It's part on the closet, part on the bathroom. Who better to call than One Bath and Closets? Get that free consultation with David. Sit down if that's you and you're thinking, yeah, that's exactly what I'm sitting here in this house. Was built in 1998 and I don't ever use that jacuzzi. Just have that free consultation. Have the discussion. That part doesn't cost you a cent. David will tell you what they can do to customize things to your exact specifications. You can see pictures of their great work at onebathandclosets.com. If you're looking for financing, they've got it, 0% up to 18 months if you qualify. And they can handle everything for you. You want to redo the vanity in the bathroom while you're doing all that. They can do it. They can handle showers, installations, removals. They can handle bathtubs, installations, removals. All that can be done with one call to One Bath and Closets. Check them out online at onebathandclosets.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Shout out to the folks at Renaissance Homes and Pools, built by Renaissance.com. Built by Renaissance.com, pools and outdoor kitchens. Looking to get that outdoor entertaining space you've always wanted. My guy Joey Blanchard and the team at Renaissance Homes and Pools, happy to help you out with that. Big news out of Knoxville. Tony Vitello headed to the San Francisco Giants. I'll have my reaction to that coming up in about 10, 12 minutes. But right now, it's time for What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
All right, let's start this bad boy off with what if LSU wins 2 of A&M, Bama, and Oklahoma, misses the playoffs, and ends the regular season 9-3?
That would show significant improvement from what you've done, because A&M, Bama, and Oklahoma look very good.
Oh, like the juggernaut.
I would suggest all three of those teams are playoff threats, playoff deep run threats. I mean, yes. I can see a world where all three of those teams were playing for the national championship. If you beat 2 of them, including at least one on the road, that to me would be a really nice close to the season. Unfortunately, you didn't get it done in the middle portion. I don't believe that 9-3 gets you into the playoffs. In this what if, you're suggesting that they missed the playoffs. I'm curious how LSU fans feel about 9-3 as opposed to 8-4 as opposed to 7-5. If that's a big difference to you, or it's either make the playoff or don't make the playoff.
Playoffs.
It's just a deal where you're going to lose a lot of this roster anyway, whether you go 9-3, 8-4, 7-5, or even 10-2. Like, you're going to lose a lot of the roster. So that's an interesting what if. It would certainly show some improvement, but it's hard to see right now.
Yeah. Definitely is. So on the flip side, what if LSU loses to Texas A&M, Bama, and Oklahoma, or any of the 3 of the last 5 games?
So that would mean you've got 5 losses. That's 7-5. That's obviously a really tough pill to swallow.
Yes.
And I talked about this yesterday on my show, and I think there are a lot of people in Baton Rouge that are LSU fans that if this team that they had put all the money into,
yes,
that had all the expectations, went 7-5, you just go, fire the coach. And that's fine, like, if you want to fire a salesperson at work and then just go hire another one, but that doesn't generally come with a $140 million price tag like this does when you buy out the coach and buy out his staff and then pay the new coach and then pay the new staff and then pay the players for the next year's team. And, like, there's just a lot of money out there. And my point yesterday was not they can't fire the coach. It was not they don't have any interest in firing the coach. My point yesterday was simply that I can't speak with authority how much money is available to buy the coach out, what the appetite is for that, and who's making that call. I don't know. And I feel like if you're driving around Baton Rouge, or you're at the local bar, you're at church, or you're at the family like if you're with your buddies and you're saying, well, they're going to fire the coach, like, you probably don't know that either. So it just seems like a lot of conjecture over things that we just don't have clarity on. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying one way or another. I'm just saying I don't know. It's probably the most tepid response you can have, and some people are going to shake their head. But that, to me, like, you go 7-5, yeah, that's an unacceptable result.
Unacceptable.
But again, it's not like you just snap your fingers. Well, let's just get a new coach in here.
Yeah.
There's tens of millions of dollars at stake, over $100 million at stake, and it's just a different world.
Yeah, no, especially once the coach leaves, it's going to be, like you said, a mass exodus of the roster. So you definitely don't want to do that. So next, what if Tiger Woods never existed? Who would professionally golf/PGA Tour be viewed in sports today? I'm assuming the GOAT of golf.
Yeah, I mean, if he never existed, PGA Tour golf would not have been elevated to the point that it is today.
Oh, okay.
Young people would not have gravitated to the sport in the early 2000s the way that they did.
Yeah.
And you would not have had this youth movement. If you look back into the 90s, the stars of PGA Tour golf were in their 30s and some in their early 40s. And what happened post-Tiger was these guys started, I mean, you look at a PGA Tour event, these guys are fit, they're in great shape, they're strong, they're athletic, and they hit the ball 340 yards. Like, that Tiger invented that. Tiger was competing against Chris DeMarco and Marco Mira and some of these guys that didn't hit it very far and weren't in very good shape and wore baggy clothes and pleated pants and smoked cigarettes on the range. And, like, that was professional golf. And Tiger made it an athletic thing. And what these guys do now is just ridiculous. They've made most of the golf courses obsolete because of the way that they've elevated in terms of what, like, people watch golf more now than they did. Now they watch Tiger more than they watch the stars of today. But it's he transformed the golf financially in terms of the way that professional golfers look and play, and brought a generation to the sport. There's no doubt.
All right, so what if LSU spent more money on O-line and a running back than offensive weapons we didn't need or use?
It was a mistake. Yeah. They made a mistake. You went and got too many receivers, and you didn't get enough on the offensive line. Like, it's just, I'm going to talk about this in 20 minutes. Like, you're going to go into this game on Saturday night. I don't know another way to say this.
No, say it.
You're going to go into the game on Saturday night without a person on your team that's capable of playing tackle at an SEC level. You don't have one. Tyree Adams is hurt, and no one else on the team qualifies. So it's something they did not address in the transfer portal, and it was a mistake. They have great depth in the secondary, great depth at wide receiver. Yep. They have solid depth on the defensive front. They don't have depth on the. They don't have. I shouldn't say they don't have depth. They have a lot of guys on the offensive line, and a lot of them were 4- and 5-star recruits.
Proven
They
guys.
don't have the high-end talent that's in production on the offensive line. And if they could take whatever they spent on Nick Anderson and Destin Hill, and then probably, and probably Jamari Butler, if you took whatever you spent on those three guys and you put it at tackle, like, your team's better. But that, it was a miss.
I forgot Destin Hill was even on the team until you just said that. I
have no idea what they spent on any of those guys, but I'm assuming they weren't free.
Oh,
and
they weren't cheap.
You take the cash that you can, move around there and do something else.
Okay, so last one. What did they give Michael Van Buren a shot at quarterback?
The offense would look different. That I can promise you. He's not as capable a thrower as Garrett Nussmeier. He can run around. You can do some read option stuff with him. He can improvise on third downs. Like, the offense would look different. I am less on the side of, Nussmeier is a huge problem than most. That's a very, very easy way to go with things. There are a lot of people, a lot of people who, after LSU got home from Orlando, said you need to bench Jaden and go with Nussmeier. And when you're calling to bench the Heisman winner, you know that it's the easiest thing to do. It just is. It's the easiest thing that you can transform the things you do when you go to the backup quarterback. Again, I'm not saying that Van Buren doesn't give LSU a different look that might be more successful. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that vehemently suggesting that Michael Van Buren is definitely someone who's going to fix your problems offensively is probably a little convenient. It's the backup quarterback who doesn't play has never made a mistake. And if you wanted to bench Jaden after LSU looked not great on offense against Florida State, and that was not like one person that said it. It was a thought from a small portion of the LSU fan base. You're just always looking for the next thing, always looking for the next scapegoat. And there are a lot of issues on this team, and Garrett Nussmeier's play has not been awesome, but I don't think you fix LSU's offense by going to Van Buren. That's my opinion.
No, I agree with you totally. And it's more that we can't run the ball. So that's already the problem right there. A quarterback's best friend is a good running game. So if you're able to run the ball, it could look a lot different. Just because you put Van Buren in there doesn't mean it's going to fix all the problems. Like you said, they're just looking for a scapegoat.
Yep.
That's What If Wednesday.
Yeah, I was looking through to see if there were any in the Bayou Ford chat. Don't believe I see one. Anything to talk about in baseball? Breaking news. We are going to talk a little baseball in the final segment of this hour, which happens to be right about now. So we'll talk about Tony Vitello headed to Rocky Top. What does that mean for LSU? The transfer portal's open for those Tennessee players, but there's a caveat. I'll talk about it when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Look, it's a delivery society, right? Well, Genesis of Baton Rouge is happy to help you with that. If you don't love spending time on a car lot and you just rather have them come to you, you're in luck, because part of being a luxury brand is a luxury experience when it comes to the car buying. And you can look at the entire inventory online. If you see something like, I'd like to test drive that, well, contact them at Genesis Baton Rouge. They'll come to you. They'll come to the office during lunch. They'll come to your home. They'll get behind the wheel with you. They'll go through all the bells and whistles. They'll tell you about the fact that every single model is an IHA top safety pick, so you're automatically behind the wheel of one of the safest cars on the road. And if you decide based on that test drive, this is what I want to get behind the wheel of, they will deliver their vehicle to you. They will let you do e-contracts. You never have to set foot on the lot. And then again, when you get your maintenance done for the first 3 years, you don't have to go. They'll come get it, bring it in, do the maintenance, bring it back to you. Just part of the luxury brand and the luxury experience at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're on airline at PQ. They're online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. That's Genesis of Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
JD Piquel with us coming up in hour number 2. That'll be at 2:15, 2:30 SEC football power rankings. Have another change at the top of our power rankings this week. A lot of shifting this week with our power rankings. We'll get to those in a little over 45 minutes from right now. Tony Vitello has made the decision. It has been broken. It is official. He is leaving Tennessee to become the manager of the San Francisco Giants. And Tony Vitello took over that Tennessee baseball program. It was a sleep. They had not been relevant really since the Chris Burke days. And every year, like Kentucky and Tennessee were kind of the doormats of the league. You had years here and there where Georgia wasn't great, years here and there where Auburn wasn't very good. But generally speaking, like Tennessee and Kentucky were really bad. In fact, in 2011, when LSU missed the tournament, it was held against LSU that 6 of their SEC wins, they were 13, 6 of their wins were against Tennessee and Kentucky. And that was what the committee chairman said, like they were beating the bottom of the league. And Tony Vitello came in there, and he started recruiting, and he got that collective together, and they started going after big names in the transfer portal, and he built a powerhouse. There's no two ways about it. That team that he built in 2022 is as good a college baseball team as I have ever seen. They had 3 first-round picks in the starting rotation. They had dudes mashing home runs every which way. And over the course of 2 days in Knoxville, Notre Dame got them. And I don't know how they did it, but they did. But that team was awesome. And then LSU was obviously too much for them with Skeens in 2023. And then they came back in 2024 and finally finished the job. And if he'd have stayed there for another 10 years, they'd have probably finished the job a couple more times, because the way that he was recruiting and the way he has developed hitters in that program and really arms in that program, along with 2 really good assistants, has been remarkable. And they've spent a lot of money on that stadium. They've spent a lot of money on that roster. And now Tony Vitello is moving on. And it's a big deal in the sport. I mean, it's landscape altering. There are only a couple of guys that can make waves like that. Jay Johnson, Tony Vitello, Jim Schlossnagle, maybe, although he's never won a championship, but he's been so relevant so often over the years. I mean, I would even hesitate right now to put Tim Corbin and Kevin O'Sullivan in that category, because their teams haven't performed as well the last few years. I know that Corbin's team was the number 1 national seed this year. I never saw them as a team that deserved that based on the talent that they had on that roster. Dave Van Horn would be in that category if he moved on, but there aren't a lot. And Tony Vitello is absolutely one. And he and Jay Johnson sit atop this sport right now. And now Jay Johnson occupies that spot by himself. And the question is, what's next for Tennessee? And that's relevant here in Baton Rouge as well. It would flatline stun me if Josh Elander, the hitting coach there, was not given that job. It would also flatline stun me if Josh Elander had a run over the next 4 years like Tony Vitello has had over the last 4 years. It's the same reason that Texas A&M made a massive mistake going to Michael Early from Jim Schlossnagle, that Florida State made a massive mistake going from Mike Martin to Mike Martin Jr. Those 2 complete failures. I think it obviously didn't work out for LSU handing the keys to assistant and Smoke Laval. Like, the guy that sits next to the guy is very rarely the guy. And Tennessee fans would jump up and down and say, look, all the players love him. Look, he can just keep this thing rolling. We heard the exact same stuff at a College Station a year ago. The exact same. And they were a disaster because Michael Early had no idea what he was doing. And it certainly stands to reason that Josh Elander could get it done in Knoxville. He could. I would bet against them being as good as they've been under Tony Vitello. Yep, he's been handling the bats. Yep, you still got Frank Anderson as a pitching coach who's done a great job there. And they'll try to keep everything under wraps. But to try to diminish Tony Vitello's value to that program is probably foolish. So we'll see. I think it's a watershed day in the Southeastern Conference. Now, to tease into this segment, I talked about the transfer portal opening for Tennessee players. It does. Transfer portal's open for 30 days for Tennessee players now. But for them to transfer and be eligible in the SEC in the spring, they have to be graduates. And that's not those aren't the guys you're looking for. The guys you're looking for are the freshmen and sophomores who have not been draft eligible just yet, that are mega talents. And Josh Elander is a guy that team really likes. In the way that Michael Early is that, and he kept Jace Laviolette, and he kept Gavin Grahovic, and he kept that group together, got Ryan Prager to come back, and that whole deal. That Elander will keep that roster together before opening day. The question is, can he coach them? I don't know. And I'm assuming he'll be the guy. Maybe they give it to Frank Anderson. Maybe Tennessee goes out and tries to hire a baseball coach right now. I have no idea. But it sounds like Josh Elander will be the guy. I don't think Tennessee will be as good as they have been without Tony Vitello piloting that ship. And hate him or love him. And most people listening to me right now hate him. And I've got reasons why he's not my favorite guy. I don't love throwing the bat across the field at the other dugout. I don't love bumping umpires. I don't love getting suspended for tampering. I don't love this shouting match with Dave Van Horn. Like, I think there are some things that are not really likable about Tony Vitello. But to try to discredit the job he did in Knoxville would be quite a chore, because that dude won a ton of baseball games. So we'll see what's next for him in San Francisco, and we'll see what's next for Tennessee baseball. But right now, LSU's baseball coach is inarguably at the top of the sport. I would have argued that he was 2 hours ago, but now you can't even argue against it. Probably the way it should be. I like it. That's our thoughts on Tony Vitello headed to San Francisco. That's it for hour number 1. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Looking for your LSU content, Hunt on LSU. Looking for Saints content, there was some of that in the first hour too, Hunt on Saints. We'll pause for National Headline in Sports Center. Let's talk LSU offensive line. We'll talk to J.D. Piquel in 20 minutes. It's a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Renaissance Homes and Pools. Renaissance Homes and Pools, looking for your dream pool. Renaissance Homes and Pools can do it for you. Looking for your dream outdoor entertaining space, like an outdoor kitchen. Renaissance Homes and Pools can do it, and they can customize it to your exact specifications. Everybody's looking for something a little bit different in a pool. If you know exactly what you want, go to my guy, Josh Blanchard. Josh Blanchard. Childhood friend Josh Blanchard. Joey Blanchard can help you out with that. He can start to finish, help you out with the design, the digging, the finishing, and the installation of that dream pool. Could be big for multiple kids and a big family. Could be cocktail pool, just you and your significant other. Whatever the case may be, Joey Blanchard can help you out with that. So go to builtbyrenaissance.com. Start your process. If you start it now, be in it for the spring. It's builtbyrenaissance.com, builtbyrenaissance.com.